Why is everybody in here? What's going on around here? Isn't it a holiday weekend, Rob? Shouldn't you be out at a basketball or a football game or something? All right.
So you seem to be in a good mood.
I'm always in a great mood, aren't I?
Not always. What does this mean to your team? What does this mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, what a rare opportunity to get a guy of his caliber. Now, I will say, for me, it's extremely bittersweet because Kenny Clark, since the day I was here or got hired here, I want to say I think he's the last guy that was on the roster when I was hired. Now I know we drafted Elton and Rashawn, but I'm really thankful for our time together because he is a pro's pro. Obviously a great player, and as great of a player as he is, I believe he's an even better person. And I think you guys probably feel the same way in terms of just he is going to treat everybody with the utmost respect. And he is revered in that locker room. And so it is bittersweet when you lose a player, not only of that caliber, but just the type of leader he was for a locker room. But at the same time, certainly, you know, like I said, it's just rare that you get an opportunity to get a guy like a Micah Parsons.
Micah's really talented. He's also really versatile. There's a lot of things he does very well. What's the best, in terms of role, the best way to maximize that talent and versatility?
That's a heck of a question. I think there's, obviously, I don't think there's much that he can't do. It's just how do you get him acclimated to what we're doing, and then you can kind of let the creativity come out. I think I got a lot of confidence in Half and our defensive staff that we'll be able to put him in positions to maximize not only his ability, but everybody around him. I just know from having a game plan against him, that is something that keeps you up at night when you're going against a player of his caliber. And now we feel like we've got a lot of other pieces around him that it's going to be that much more challenging for our opponents.
You joked coming in here about us being here, and it's a holiday weekend, but what does this change anything for you and the staff trying to figure out how you're going to line them up and implement on all those areas?
No, I think more than anything, we got to get him here. We got to see where he's at. You know, he hasn't, I don't believe he's practiced. So we got to be very calculated with how we deploy him and just the number of snaps that he's going to get. And I think the first part of that is you got to assess the situation, and in order to do that, you got to have some sort of physical movement.
And what was your sort of role just in this whole process with Goody and those guys?
I was just a cheerleader on the sidelines. So now he talked to me, obviously, I don't want to get into timelines, but early before anybody ever even knew this could have potentially come to fruition. So, and, you know, I was like, heck yeah. I mean, these opportunities just don't come about.
You said, I think after this past season, that you originally wanted to just rush the traditional 4, but you guys obviously had to change. Does this allow you to get back to that?
I'd say so, yes. I think it just gives us a lot of flexibility with what we want to do. And I think Half and our staff have done a great job of, you know, like I've mentioned many times, that you come in with a vision of, hey, we're going to get after them with our front 4. You're going to play coverage. And then I loved the evolution, I would say, of our defense last year in regards to being able to deploy a lot of different fronts, which makes it more challenging for opposing offenses to game plan against when you're not quite sure and they have everything. But it just gives you so much flexibility. Do you want to? I mean, this guy's played off the ball linebacker, and it's rare that you get a defensive end that can go inside and play linebacker or go inside and rush. So he's obviously he's got to have a great football mind and capacity to learn in order to be able to do all those different things.
What's your comfort level with the guys you have now with defensive tackle, with Clark gone, some guys are going to have to step up. Just what's your comfort level with those guys that remain there?
Yeah, very confident. I feel like just in our conversations, that's one thing Goody and I talked about is, we had 6 guys on the inside on our roster, and I also think there's situationally, there's other guys that you can kick inside as well. So I think you can never have enough edge rushers in this league, and that's a premium position. Not to say that the guys inside aren't; they certainly are as well. But we feel pretty confident with the depth that we have there. I think the growth that we've seen from guys like Carl Brooks, Colby Wooden, then we got the 2 rooks inside there. Obviously, Devontae Wyatt. We feel confident with that group.
Just in terms of the value of pass rush, is that kind of the focus to really maximize Micah as a pass rusher coming off the edge, or is it more to unlock the totality of his game and the other aspects as well?
Can you say that one more time?
Well, I'm wondering, obviously pass rush, like you said, is a premium position. Is that the focus to really maximize him in that area, or is it almost, because he is so versatile, almost an underservice to really focus on that aspect and not all the other things he does?
Well, yeah, I think the one thing he can wreck a game in a hurry. And I just know going against him and having a game plan, especially when you're talking the pass game, you just got to be very, very careful who you're putting down him and just what type of protections you're doing. Matter of fact, I just ironically watched our Dallas game earlier today, and just some of the havoc that he was able to create. And luckily, we had our running back bailed us out a couple times from some potential game-changing plays where he just made us look silly up front on a couple of plays. So this guy is super versatile and just can change the whole complexion of your defense.
How do you take on the expectations with this? I mean, I don't think you're sneaking up on anybody now after this trade. What is that going to be like, just carrying that this whole season?
I feel like that's always the expectation around here. I feel like since the day I was hired. So you just approach it no different than we have in the past, trying to be your best each and every day, trying to get a little bit better. It's a long year. There's a lot of variables that come into play throughout the course of the season. And certainly it's just how well you stick together in the tough times and just kind of ride the wave. But as far as expectations, that just is something that comes along with being a Green Bay Packer.
Putting your game planning hat on, what was the challenge of game planning against Parsons? And then the other hand of it, now that he's on your team, what does that do for the rest of your defense that, week 1 coordinator, whoever, is going to have to go stop Parsons, and what does that do for your defense then?
Yeah, I mean, it's a challenge. Anytime you got a premier edge rusher, it's a big-time challenge. First and second down, are you going to play action pass? Do you really want to only have one guy on them? There's a lot of different hoops you got to jump through, and then you don't know where necessarily he's always going to line up. Is he going to line up inside, outside? That's where it gets really fun, I think, for our defensive staff, and becomes a real challenge for you offensively, because, like I said, he's made a lot of people look really bad. And he wins so fast, and that's the thing that you really have to account for. Is just how fast he can get to the quarterback.
Obviously, Rashawn's been good, really good at times. What does this mean for him then? No one's gonna be able to double team Rashawn anymore, right? So what can this do?
Well, yeah, now you got to pick. There's certain situations too where. This is why I think the flexibility with your front is so important, because if a guy lines up at defensive end all the time, then you can find a guy and have your tight end or receiver, whoever, your back, and you can make sure you chip them. But when you couple them with a guy on the outside, on the other side, now to your point, Bill, you got to pick your poison. What do you want to do? Are you chipping both sides? Well, if you are, now you're not getting as many people out in the route, at least not initially. So it definitely kind of flips the field in your favor.
Matt, you said you happened to be looking at the Dallas tape. Was that because you were getting ready for Dan Quinn and Joe Witt and doing some advanced stuff for that game, or did you just want to look at the guy you just had?
I just wanted to watch him.
You know, thinking about fit, this guy coming from Dallas to Green Bay, a couple of days after that game, he publicly said, I think on a podcast, that he was impressed by Jordan Love and the game plan that you guys had against him. And 6 months ago, he sat down with Jordan in an interview, right? So how much of those things do you pick up and say, yeah, this guy would fit in here with us?
Well, when guys have relationships with other players around the league, you always, especially when you're going through the process, you always ask, what do you think of them? My first exposure to Micah was at the Pro Bowl, was that the 21 season? And I was really impressed by the guy. Matter of fact, we were joking about it, like the majority of the players in the Pro Bowl, I think it's well known, that's why there's not a Pro Bowl game anymore. The majority of the guys looked like they were going through the motions, except for one guy. He was trying to wreck shop out there, and he was trying to win. And that's one thing, just having relationships with other coaches throughout the league that have worked with him. They'll tell you this guy's the ultimate competitor, and if you're whatever it is you're playing, he's going to want to win. And I don't think he's very apologetic about that, which is so exciting as a coach. To get a guy like that, and I think that just elevates everybody around him.
What's the acclimation process like for Parsons to get up to speed with Halfley's defense on the fly?
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of time spent together, I would say, and a lot of one-on-one time to try to get him up to speed as quickly as possible. But I think more than anything else, I'm confident that will happen quickly. But we just got to see where he's at physically before, we put him out there and he's playing 70 snaps a game.
If your defense winds up becoming dominant, does it change your philosophy offensively as to how often you attack and things like that? Do you have to think about those kind of things?
Well, I think every game you kind of go into with a game plan, a blueprint, so to speak, of how you can best win the football game. So I don't want to just speak in absolutes up here. I'm sure sometimes, yeah, certainly it could change the way you go about it. But I think we just want to try to score as many points as humanly possible, get a lead on somebody, and then just let the front go.
Matt, how do you feel about Micah as a run defender?
I feel very confident about him.
Two more, please.
I asked Brian this same question, but one of the joys of your job is you get to coach great players. I'm curious, how did you find out yesterday that the deal was done, and at that moment, what goes through your mind in getting to coach this guy?
Well, I mean, it's extremely exciting to get one of the premier players in the National Football League on your team. And like I said, just having gone against him a couple times and watching him compete and just the havoc that he wrecks, it's a nightmare going into a game like that because you're just seeing these highlight reel plays that happen pretty consistently. So it was very exciting.
Matt, did you mention the impression that he made on you at the Pro Bowl to Micah? Does he know that story?
No, I haven't sat down and talked to him about that yet, but it was a great impression.
Matt, I know that Micah and his family are here. What was it like just finally having him in the building and getting to meet him, his family, talk to them?
Well, I met his family, and I talked to him for about 3 or 4 minutes before Waller's made me come in here. So I'm looking forward to sitting down with him and getting a little bit more in depth with our conversation.